right, let's welcome in our powerhouse panel on this Wednesday morning. We start with the former Lieutenant Governor of New York. Betsy McCoy is here. Best-selling author and political analyst Mark Halperin is here, author of many very good books. One of those books, I believe, was made into a feature film, and that was a very good movie as well. Mark, what's the name of that movie?
Game Change, not a feature film, an HBO movie.
Yep, it's a feature film, Mark. It was a feature film. Very good. Good cast, too, by the way, for that one.
You probably call this a broadcast, too, Rob.
It's a telecast, Mark. All right, we're on radio, podcast. You can hear us underwater. This is a pretty miraculous program, telecast. We also have National Advisory Board member for Project 21, podcast host, radio host, Christopher Arps with us as well in St. Louis. Good morning to all. Let me just get my train of thought, because now I'm having so much fun that I forgot what we were doing. But, so here we go. 6 days from now, we'll have a recall election in the state of California. Kamala Harris is campaigning with Gavin Newsom. I'm not sure what effect that has. Kamala, not tremendously popular in her own state. But I have a theory, a Wake Up America theory for you. Mark, we'll start with you. Hear me out. Dianne Feinstein, all right? She's senior senator, state of California, 88 years old, I believe, Democrat. I am hearing rumors that she might not be all there upstairs, that she's starting to, maybe lose it a little bit, all right? And that I've heard worse, but that's what I've heard. Let's say Gavin Newsom does lose this race, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen, although a lot can change in 6 days. It's close enough. I think Larry Elder is the leading candidate out there for the Republicans. But if Gavin Newsom loses and somebody like Larry Elder or Caitlyn Jenner or somebody else wins, Dianne Feinstein then retires or is forced to step down. Boom, the Republicans have the Senate back. Thoughts?
Not an implausible scenario, but it starts with Gavin Newsom losing. And as you said, the current polling data suggests he's got a pretty decent-sized lead. We don't know what turnout's going to be like. There's some groups of Democrats who may not vote or may vote to remove him. But right now, the focus on the party is to make this a Democrat versus Republican fight, a Newsom versus Trump fight. And on those terms, frame that way, rather than looking at Gavin Newsom's record, particularly during the pandemic, it's more favorable terrain for him, and he's likely to survive.
Betsy, former Lieutenant Governor of New York, you know state politics better than anybody. The state's in crisis. We're talking about a state with the 5th biggest economy on the planet. It's losing population. They just lost a congressional seat. Homelessness at an all-time high. People are upset.
Fire. Literally.
It's literally, the state's on fire. The way that the shutdown was handled is terrible. I read this thing about Gavin Newsom, by the way. Apparently, he's got a winery up in Napa Valley. He did everything in his power to keep the winery open while all the wineries around him were forced to close as a result of the shutdown. I mean, he's just
hypocrisy is his middle name, and it's really hurt him in this race. And he is 10 points ahead, according to the latest poll, which I checked this morning, the 538 poll. But the fact is that the Democrats have an enthusiasm problem. The Republicans are much more enthusiastic, which means that they may, in fact, they will outvote their numbers in the state. So Larry Elder still has a good chance. What is most disturbing to me is how the media in California, particularly the Los Angeles Times, has played the race card, labeling Larry Elder, this very smart, very dignified African-American candidate, blackface. They have ridiculed him as if a person with dark skin is incapable or barred from thinking in a conservative way, offering governing principles that could actually put California back in good shape. That is what is so shocking about this race.
Betsy, that's such a good point. I wasn't going to go there, but since you brought it up, I appreciate you bringing that up. It's a good point. Chris, I've noticed this, and this is not sycophantic media. I've noticed that Larry Elder is campaigning on the issues. He's campaigning where he thinks Gavin Newsom has gone wrong in his short time as governor. But Newsom has gotten really personal when it comes to attacking Larry Elder. What do you make of that?
I think part of that is because, he needs a high turnout of African Americans to come out in favor of him. So I think he's trying to paint Larry Elder as an Uncle Tom, as a sellout, to try to gin up the African American vote to come out and vote for him. That's something that I have experienced as a black conservative. It's just something that you get used to. The liberals kind of look at you paternalistically as, how can you dare not be a Democrat and vote for a Republican? So it's just par for the course. I've seen it many, many times.
Yeah, it's a good point. Let's hear from Gavin Newsom. This is an example of him calling out his opponent, Larry Elder, and the former president as well. Take a listen.
He's to the right of Donald Trump. To the right of Donald Trump. That's what's at stake in this election. And don't think for a second you can't do damage in that role.
Now, he said that back on in early August, August 13th. But I think if he said that now, a month later, maybe being to the right of Donald Trump would be a good thing, the way the country is going right now. Donald Trump was on Rob Schmitt tonight, last night. You can watch that 10 p.m. Eastern here on Newsmax. The president weighed in on everything, including this botched situation in Afghanistan. Take a listen.
That withdrawal, the withdrawal was the most incompetently handled withdrawal or anything else in the history of our country. We're embarrassed in front of the world, Rob. There's never been anything like this between the killing of our young people, our young great people, and, by the way, 250 other people, and also the giving them $850 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world. There's never been a greater embarrassment than we've suffered this last week.
Mark, your reaction to that, and just interesting to know, when the Russians invaded Afghanistan, really throughout the decade of the 80s, you know, Peter Jennings, who I know you worked with at ABC News for years, they were called freedom fighters, the Taliban back then. That's the way that we framed that. Then we got involved in this mess after 9/11, rightfully so. We were trying to root out terrorism and get Osama bin Laden, but somewhere along the lines, it seems like we lost our way. I'm curious what you see as what has changed fundamentally for us from when we went in after 9/11 to 20 years later right now.
Well, the whole point of going in and getting rid of the Taliban was to keep Afghanistan from being a staging area for terrorists. And obviously, in the short term, the bungled withdrawal is going to continue to get scrutiny, and it should, and getting the remaining folks out is important. But really, the question is, are we leaving the country in conditions where terrorism could come back and take root there? And by all indications, that's a real possibility. So you achieve the mission and then you withdraw. Chances are, in a place like Afghanistan, given its history, everything's going to go right back to where it was before. And that's why some people are raising the question of, what was this war for?
All right, let's put the conversation on pause for a minute. I want to pick this back up on the other side. It's going to be interesting to see Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, on Capitol Hill on Monday and Tuesday testifying. I'm sure he will get some challenging questions, I hope. Dr. Fauci is something I'd like to talk about next.